to have the privilege of having the job of making the roads safe. That's rewarding for me. Getting through a storm and seeing the final product of what you've done. It's something I take pride in, and because of it being a challenge, it's something I enjoy doing.
From two candidates for the Probate Juvenile Division of the Geauga County Court of Common Pleas, Timothy Grendel and Matthew Rambo. Mr. Grendel, since you are a G, that comes first in the alphabet.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending this evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Kenston students for hosting. I agree, judges should not consider politics when making decisions, but tonight we're not talking about decisions, we're talking about a primary. And under Ohio law, this is a partisan Republican primary. The Republican candidate for probate juvenile judge should be a true Republican and should have actual experience in the Geauga County Probate and Juvenile courtroom. I am the candidate that meets both of those criteria. I have been a Geauga County Republican for 30 years. I've run for office always as a Republican. I've been elected by Geauga County Republicans 5 times in Republican primary elections. I'm a member of the Geauga County Republican Hall of Fame, the Lake Geauga County Young Republican Hall of Fame. My signs are not with Bernie Sanders signs. I do not have to tell my supporters to change parties to vote for me next Tuesday. I'm the candidate who has actually worked and made decisions in the Geauga County Probate and Juvenile courtroom. I've been your probate and juvenile court judge for 8.5 years. I've rendered over 20,000 rulings with a .001 reversal rate. I ruled that the Chardon school shooter should be tried as an adult, and that ruling was upheld by the Court of Appeals and the Ohio Supreme Court. I've protected more than 1,000 children as juvenile court judge. I've acted as superior guardian for over 600 seniors and disabled residents as probate court judge. I've had to make tough decisions that aren't always politically popular, but my decisions are based solely on protecting at-risk children and seniors in our county and not based on politics. I've implemented innovative programs at the court to provide much-needed services for our residents, such as the Launchpad program, Victor Matthews Family Life Improvement Program, and the Help Center. I substantially expanded the CASA program, which was started under Judge Henry. And these programs have allowed the court to get necessary evaluations and treatment for parties faster than in the past, which ultimately speeds up the process for family reunification and saves the taxpayers money. This was necessary in part because of the opiate epidemic, which dramatically increased the number of students, number of children that fell under the court's protection. The court's general tax dollar spending has gone down now in 17, 18, and 19. As a military veteran, I am proud of our county's new Veterans Legacy Woods. I am proud of having brought the Good Deeds program to the county to assist our residents in saving tax dollars by reducing the need to come to court and saving their dollars by reducing their need to be in the court. Our parks are better than ever. I invite you to take your family to Holbrook Hollow and see for yourself. With your support, I will continue to protect the children, the seniors, and the families in our county. Thank you.
Mr. Rambo.
Good evening. My name is Matt Rambo, and I'm running to be your next probate and juvenile judge. Before I start, I'd like to thank the Geauga County League of Women Voters and the PAC program for inviting us to this forum tonight. Secondly, I don't know if everybody in the room heard, 3 Cuyahoga County residents were confirmed to have coronavirus. So, pursuant to my conversation with the Geauga Public Health District, wash your hands, don't touch your face, use bleach-style wipes to clean flat surfaces, and stay away from others if you're feeling ill. I posted on my Facebook, I've posted the Ohio Department of Health website for the coronavirus. It's coronavirus.ohio.gov if you're interested. A bit of background about myself. I am an attorney in private practice. Currently, my office is with a firm in Mayfield Village. My wife and I met in law school at Ohio State, and we currently live in Russell Township with our 2 little boys. Professionally, prior to being a private practice attorney, I served as a magistrate on the Court of Claims of Ohio and as a staff attorney for 2 Cuyahoga County Common Pleas judges. I'm running for probate juvenile judge because I believe in service to the community, and I believe the Geauga County voters deserve a choice when deciding who should be the probate and juvenile judge. I'm running because I believe I can improve the operation of the Geauga County Probate and Juvenile Court. I believe the court can work more collaboratively with county government and elected officials to solve challenges that the county faces. That includes the commissioners, the auditor, and the prosecutor. I believe the court should spend responsibly and not spend public money for advertising or promotional items like wristbands, rubber gavels, newsletters, placemats at local diners, ads in church bulletins, and a separate website for the probate and juvenile court apart from the one provided by the county. I believe the court can be more transparent in its dealings with the public and with others in county government. I believe the court should actively participate in the budgeting process with the commissioners to resolve budgeting disputes amicably and to ensure that public money is being spent wisely. I believe that transparency should extend to the Geauga Parks District in the form of public comment meetings and open meetings. After all, they are your parks paid for with your money. I believe that currently administrative costs at the court are unacceptably high. I will look to cut unnecessary employee expenses and travel and ensure that all employees are well qualified to perform the roles for which they are hired. Geauga County, I believe we can do better, and I will do better. Make your voices heard. After all, decisions are made by those who show up. Please show up on March 17th and vote Rambo for judge. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have a variety of questions. And let's see here. This is a question directed to both of you. What is your view on appointing park commissioners? Mr. Rambo, why don't you start this one?
I believe the appointment of Parks Commissioner should be an open and transparent process. I believe applicants should be taken from around the county. I would personally like to see conservation-minded people appointed, as well as, there has to be obviously some business sense. The Park District is the biggest budget item that the county has, I believe. So I think as you can get conservation-minded business people in there to serve for long terms and protect the parks.
Mr. Rambo. I'm sorry, Mr. Grendel.
The Park District is not a county function per se. It's a separate entity, a county park district. It's formed under Chapter 1545 of the Ohio Revised Code. Under the statute, has 3 directors who are appointed for 3-year terms. Over the past years, I inherited directors from Judge Henry and kept them for their next terms. But I feel that there's a reason why the legislature says 3-year terms and not life terms, and that's to give others in the county the opportunity to serve on the park board, which is a non-paying position. I believe the folks who are there should represent the taxpayers who have put over $100 million in those parks and should still protect and preserve the natural resources, but allow people to enjoy at least a portion of the parks for themselves and their children. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have a couple of questions that are related. I'm going to begin with the question that is directed to Mr. Grendel. What was your involvement in filing the recent grievance against Mr. Rambo?
I did not file the grievance against Mr. Rambo. My understanding is that the 3-judge probable cause panel found reason for a complaint to be filed, that Mr. Richard Dove, the director of the Professional Board of Conduct, signed the complaint, and I understand that ultimately the complaint was based on the fact that my opponent had represented in writing that he had never voted Democrat before 2017, when he had actually voted Democrat in Franklin County as far back as 2010.
Mr. Rambo, would you explain the literature that stated you were facing ethics and disciplinary charges?
Mr. Grendel's characterization is completely inaccurate. The grievance that was forwarded to the panel was The statement I made was that my pledge was to return the Geauga County Probate and Juvenile Court to its intended role as a nonpartisan arbiter of justice. That statement went before a panel. The panel found the grievance, quote, "giving rise to this complaint was frivolous and filed for the purposes of obtaining an advantage for a judicial candidate." The grievance in question was filed by Kimberly Laurie, who is currently the Geauga County Probate and Juvenile Court Administrator.
Thank you. The next question is directed to both candidates, and I will let Mr. Rambo answer this one first. As a judge, can you comment on the importance of respecting the law and other local offices, particularly the auditor's office?
So as a judge, the oath that we take will be to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the state of Ohio and the United States. That includes the different statutory roles that are played by other county offices. Importantly, the Supreme Court publishes what's called the Ohio Budget Resource Handbook, which encourages the courts specifically to work with commissioners and other county entities in solving what are primarily and almost always financial disputes. It is the court's role and the court's privilege to order payment of bills or invoices without first talking with the other county agencies. But the Supreme Court has recommended that that is not the best way or the preferred way for the court to operate.
I respect the county auditor. I just wish he'd respect me and my staff. There is a separation of powers. Courts are autonomous. Courts get to act without the other branches of government telling them what to do, and you want that as citizens because you certainly want an independent judiciary and not a judiciary that's under the thumb of the executive branch. In this particular case, the auditor has said that my public employees who are trying to handle the finances of your public court aren't allowed to go into the public area of the public county auditor's office to conduct the court's public business. And in fact, they've been threatened with arrest and they've been harassed. And as a result of the auditor's action, he's actually invited a federal lawsuit, which is currently pending against him. I would love to put all this behind us because all I want to do is keep the court operating and keep the court operating in the efficient manner that we've done for the last 8 years.
Okay, the next question is specifically for Mr. Rambo. In Cleveland.com's editorial endorsement, you were quoted as saying that you were more comfortable in the Republican Party. Why then did you run in 2018 as a Democrat, and what changed between these two election cycles?
So we're going to talk about my party affiliation again. I voted Democrat 3 times in my life, and I think I voted Republican 7 to 10 times. I'm not exactly sure. I vote with my conscience. Sometimes the candidates on the ballot that are, what in my view, the most qualified candidates happen to be Democrats. Most of the time they happen to be Republicans, but not all the time. And the Cleveland.com editorial interview, I explained that growing up Republican, being a Republican for a long time, I had cause to switch. I then had an opportunity to run. I did. I failed. I came back to my home party.
Okay. The next question is for Mr. Grendel. Mr. Grendel, as I'm sure you are aware, this is the question, not my words. Judicial positions are meant to be nonpartisan. Can you explain then why your mailers have emphasized over and over again that you are the real or best Republican running?
Gladly. This is the Republican Party's partisan primary for judge, because under Ohio law, our primaries are partisan. If Mr. Rambo, who has announced after he ran as a Democrat, said he will be candidate for every future judgeship until elected, decided to be an opportunist to become a Republican, that's his choice. But I've been a Republican for 30 years. I've been the Republican judge for 30 years. And the reason why my literature says that, it's because this is the Republican partisan primary. This is not the general election when you can run as a D or an independent. This is the Republican primary, and I ask my Republican friends to vote for me, and I'm not asking Democrats to change parties to vote for me, as my opponent happens to be doing. Thank you.
Okay, this question is for Mr. Rambo. What is your experience in juvenile court cases, and what will be your approach to the complicated abuse and neglect cases you might have to consider as a juvenile court judge?
I'm currently and have been a certified guardian ad litem. I serve as a guardian ad litem in Ashtabula County. Right now, currently have 2 cases pending before me. I've had others. In terms of what I would do to adjudicate serious abuse, neglect, and dependency cases, I think you take a holistic approach to do what is best for the child. You listen to the people that are in front of you, including the CASAs or the guardians, and the parties involved, mental health professionals that may be involved, medical professionals that may be involved. You make sure everyone is heard and everybody's side is considered in deciding what the best course is for the child.
Mr. Grendel, I have another question for you. You have been accused of attempting to jail Chester Township commissioners who didn't vote for certain park expenditures that you favored in 2016, eventually backing off the charges when a judge ruled that you violated separation of powers. How do you respond to those accusations?
Well, all those facts are incorrect, and fake news isn't limited just to the national news. Guess what? There's fake news in our local weeklies as well. That may come as a surprise, probably not to most of you, but that's just simply not true. In Chesterland, there was a problem with the park board that I inherited, and the problem with the park board was somebody filed a petition saying that there was 20 pages of violations by the park board. I named Mary Jane Trapp, a Democrat, to investigate it. She did a 250-page report. The report indicated that the township had some responsibility. The court issued an order. The township trustees went and made a representation to the court and the county prosecutor and then violated that representation. I simply asked the trustees to come to court to explain to me how they could violate commitments and comments made to the court, and there was no threat of putting anybody in jail. That's just fake news.
Mr. Grendel, I have one last question for you, and that is, can you clarify what public money is spent on promoting your office's services versus promoting you personally?
Well, the money that's primarily used by the court to help do what the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has implored us to do, which is to help educate the public about what the court does and what services are available. And she's recommended that so that we could make the court less of a scary place for the public, and therefore they would be more comfortable at the court and use the services more expeditiously, ultimately saving taxpayers money. We use what's called special project funds, which by statute I'm allowed to use, which are not tax dollars, to pay for a good chunk of the promotions. The county commissioners have approved a budget that does allow us to use some funds that we use to help the people of the county know how to get to their court, what services their court has, and how to benefit from those services. And that is the purpose for those funds. And I'm happy to say that the folks are using our services, our help center, our good deeds program, and they're getting the benefit of being an informed public instead of a secret court.
Thank you. I